Good afternoon. On behalf of the President of Riverside Military Academy, Colonel Stanley C. Przewski, United States Army retired, the Riverside Board of Trustees, and the Corps of Cadets, welcome to Riverside Military Academy's Leadership Recognition and ROC Cresting Ceremony. ROC is an acronym for Recruit on Campus. After the installation of cadet leaders, the highlight of this afternoon's ceremony will be the integration of the Academy's ROCs into the Corps of Cadets. This event signifies the successful completion of the ROC training cycle, which began for most on 10 August, and recognizes the promotion of these recruits to the rank of Cadet Private. A special welcome is extended to family members of the ROCs joining us today in Gainesville and online. As the marching units make their way onto the field, I will briefly describe the historical background associated with some of the movements and activities you will observe this afternoon. The tradition of parading troops can be traced back to the time of Alexander the Great. In general, drill procedures and movements on the parade field were identical to the tactical maneuvers employed on the battlefield. The tradition of United States military reviews and parades began at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. At that time, brigades of soldiers were formed in order of battle. Modern-day ceremonies are conducted to render honors, preserve tradition, and foster esprit de corps. Parades were originally the working formation of the Army, which began and ended each day, whereas the reviews were more formal occasions. The location of the colors at the center of the formation represents their presence at the forefront of regiments and battalions during the heat of battle. The color guard of the Corps of Cadets includes, in order from your left to right, national colors, the Georgia state flag, and the flag of the Riverside Military Academy Corps of Cadets. The march on is complete. Please rise and join the Corps in rendering honors to our nation. Please be seated.
Order! Order!
are pleased now to formally announce the leadership of the Eagle Battalion for the 2020-2021 academic year. The leadership selection process, as your cadets will attest, was longer and more substantive this year than in any year in recent memory. The 6x6 plan and integrated approach to leadership camp allowed for considerably more leadership training and development, as well as a more deliberative and objective leader selection process, the results of which we are pleased to announce at this time, beginning with the battalion commander and his staff. The battalion commander for the 2020-2021 academic year is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Legaspi. The Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Thomas Hamilton. The Battalion Executive Officer is Cadet Major Nicholas Bergman. The S1 is Cadet First Lieutenant Jiachen Yan. The S2 is Cadet First Lieutenant Kyle Geller. The S3 is Cadet Captain Evan Hughes. The S4 is Cadet First Lieutenant Robert Morgan III. The S5 is Cadet First Lieutenant Connery Marin. The Inspector General is Cadet First Lieutenant Bradley Baratich. And the Honor Council Chairman is Cadet Major Noah Vernopfel. The leadership of Headquarters Company. Commanding Officer, Cadet Captain Daniel Castridis. First Sergeant, Cadet First Sergeant Alfonso Garcia, Jr. Executive Officer, Cadet First Lieutenant Isaiah Dawson. First Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Benton Blair. First Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Kyler Groves. Second Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Christian Vo. Second Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Andrew Preston. The leadership of Alpha Company. Commanding Officer, Cadet Captain Ruben Barahona. First Sergeant, Cadet First Sergeant Christian Jones. Executive Officer, Cadet First Lieutenant Caleb Dieter. First Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Loic Raguasana. First Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Alexander Pombo. Second Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Cody Bion. Second Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Anthony Legaspi. The leadership of Bravo Company. Commanding Officer, Cadet Captain Alex Darius. First Sergeant, Cadet First Sergeant David Capestein. Executive Officer, Cadet First Lieutenant Antonio Baez Manzanilla. First Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Mark Booty, Jr. First Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Jacob Slaughter. Second Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Oscar Fang. Second Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Michael Seba. The leadership of Charlie Company. Commanding Officer, Cadet Captain William Ferris. First Sergeant, Cadet First Sergeant Troy Bion. Executive Officer, Cadet First Lieutenant Oljas Nurlabayev. First Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Michael Wilson. First Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Joshua Yoon. Second Platoon, Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Braden Fish. Second Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Mason West. The leadership of Delta Company. Commanding Officer, Cadet Captain Alan Cademus. First Sergeant, Cadet First Sergeant Edgar De Leon. Executive Officer, Cadet First Lieutenant Gavin Drucker. First Platoon Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Charles Crawford. First Platoon Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class William Gibson. Second Platoon Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Raymond Cook III. Second Platoon Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Tan Nguyen. The leadership of India Company. Commanding Officer, Cadet Captain Robert Daniel Jr. First Sergeant, Cadet First Sergeant Landon Ojeda Snow. Executive Officer, Cadet First Lieutenant Alex Sosa. First Platoon Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant David Nathan Stewart III. First Platoon Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Hunter Leach. Second Platoon Platoon Leader, Cadet Second Lieutenant Keith Egizio. Second Platoon Platoon Sergeant, Cadet Sergeant First Class Connor Brady. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in recognizing the leadership of the Eagle Battalion. Thank you. The ceremony today also recognizes the success, maturation, and elevation of the recruits on campus, also known as ROCs. The ROC cycle is an indoctrination phase that provides basic instruction on cadet life, close order drill, military customs, courtesies and traditions, uniform and room preparation, rank structure, and physical training. An important objective of the ROC cycle is to instill self-discipline, which is critical to the development of organizational skills, time management, and sound study habits. This phase is a period of adjustment and self-denial during which ROCs are trained to place the concept of duty above personal desires. Upon successfully completing the ROC cycle, passing the required knowledge exam, and upon recommendation of their company commanders and TAC officers, ROCs receive a new status, compete for rank and leadership positions, and soon take on responsibility for the training and development of other new ROCs. At this time, company guidon bearers will wave their guidons vigorously in the air as each company is called. Parents and guests should take notice of the location of each company so that they will know where to look when their recruit's name is called. Headquarters. Alpha. Bravo. Charlie. Delta. India. Recruits will now come forward as their names are called in order to be promoted by their commanding officers. Ambrose Chijoke. Beti Alirzaev. Bryant Cuevas. Simon Brainerd. Booker Frazier. Vlad Freeman. Donnell Denson. Alec Burke. Maxime Jezovic. Lucas Carey Boris. Matthew Gomez. Armand Ladesseur. Carlos Gutierrez. Micah Bice. Jose Alex Manzano. Alex Crow. Holden Heist. Adrian Roberts. Grant Holliday. Brandon Byrne. Dante Orderica. Josiah Duffin. Cedric C.J. Jackson. Andrew Tolompoiko. Jake McKenzie. Makana Dairud. Ashton Webley. John Eco. Santiago Paez. Kaiden Piedmont. Benjamin Edwards. Jude Gallo. Nicholas Peters. David Erickson. Artemy Podetsky. John Pham. Oluwatobi Famori. Kyle Lawson. Ben Spivey. Jerian Fleming. Ayedeji Lawson. Nikolay Tolmachov. Keith Ford II. Zachary Quinn. Colin Tortorelli. Matthew Griffin. Alejandro Romero. Gavin Velasco. Mauricio Gutierrez. Mateo Schwab. Andrew Hasbrook. Arek Verma. Devin Hayes. Caleb Hidalgo. Wesley Hinkle. Juan Jose Lambert Jr. Bill Lee. William Lee. Kevin Lynn. Christian McCarter. Daniel McCraney. Caden McGahee. Jude Payne. Anthony Piedmont. Ethan Rather. Braden Rickard. Edson Reinhardt. Mason Shield. Rafael Sotunde. Yixiang Sun. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in congratulating all of our newly minted cadets. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of Riverside Military Academy, Colonel Przewski.
Welcome. I want to thank the parents, guardians, and friends for the support, sacrifice over the last 6 weeks. If you recall, the drop-off this year was a little bit different than usual. You weren't allowed out of your car. You asked your son to step out, and then you moved through a series of signs that were along the road. Last station was myself and Pam, our parent coordinator, at a tent, sometimes in the rain, saying goodbye to you. What was interesting is many of you completed the period of time in which they had been home since March, for those of you who are returning cadets. And for the ROC parents, in many cases, your children had been home, your sons had been home on digital learning or learning online for that whole period of time. And what I found interesting is that so many parents, men and women alike, had tears in their eyes, but I didn't know which ones were of joy and which ones were of sadness, but there were a lot of tears. And so that brings you to today. It's been 6 weeks since you've seen your sons. They're out here today, I think, in full display. And I think it turned into a perfect day. If you were here yesterday at this time, we were right at 3.5 inches of rain down from the skies. But the Lord's looking down on us and blessing us. A great day for the ceremony. First, my congratulations to Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Legaspi and the entire cadet leadership team selected to lead for what will likely be objectively recorded as the most challenging year ever for the Corps of Cadets. It's true, over a century ago, there was a global pandemic and Riverside persevered. True, Corps and their families survived the Great Depression and multiple recessions over the century. True, the Corps carried on through multiple wars over the century and the civil rights movements of the 60s. But never has the Corps been faced with a global pandemic, a crushing global economy, a couple of hurricane remnants passing through, significant social justice challenges across the land, and a presidential election, all in the same year. These young men were not even born when 9/11 occurred, yet our nation remains engaged in conflict around the world. I dare say the demands on these young men are unparalleled. I dare say the demands are going to be met. Looking at this slate of leaders that was just recognized, I'm confident that if and only if they put in the effort, they indeed will rise to the occasion that these times call for. I know they have the potential. Potential counts for nothing unless it's realized. So to the newly selected squad leaders, platoon and first sergeant, sergeant major, platoon leaders and company commanders, battalion staff officers, and the cadet battalion commander Legaspi, I extend my congratulations for the effort that has led to your selection and to your place today in front of your units. It was a lot of effort on your part, significant effort on your part to be selected for promotion this year. However, now the real work begins. Now is when we witness whether the potential identified in you can transform into meaningful reality of selfless leadership. Now is the time, and all of us here today are watching on, and those watching online will be keeping their eyes upon you. My talk for the May commencement ceremony is not yet written. Your actions, your commitment, your sacrifices, and your leadership will write that speech for me. It will determine those words. It will be a delight if in May, all I have to say is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to report that the 2021 leadership exceeded their potential. To the new cadets, those that successfully completed the ROC cycle, congratulations as well. If you're being promoted to full-fledged cadet today, and not all made it through, some of them have been extended, if you made it through to today, you've just demonstrated to your leaders that you know how to follow. A key trait of any fine leader is knowing when to lead and knowing when to follow. You have the first part down. You've demonstrated you can follow. Now, today, right here, is the time for you to make the decision of where you desire to end up as you leave this academy in the future. One of you will, in fact, become the battalion commander. Others will lead platoons and companies as officers and sergeants. But where will you wind up? Riverside staff and faculty do not make that decision. You do by the actions you start taking today in choosing to develop as a leader, as a scholar, as an athlete, and as a selfless citizen. Step up to the plate, hit that grand slam starting today. Always choose the harder right than the easier wrong. Look out for your brothers in blue, even if they fail to look out for you. We are watching you, and we're watching your choices. Make good ones, and all of the privileges associated with good choices be yours to keep. Switching for a moment to COVID-19 as we conclude the ceremony, please know that thousands of tests were performed since you dropped your sons off, and we keep coming up our COVID results being under control. The actions of the faculty, the staff, the cadets, and the families are actions that are keeping this pandemic outside of this campus and outside of our core. Families, you delivered them to us healthy. We're returning them to you today healthy. I ask that you bring them back to us healthy. You're about to be handed a flyer when you sign out here in a few moments. You're going to be handed a flyer, looks like this, and it has some suggestions on there. I ask that you put this flyer on your refrigerator, or better yet, if you would staple it, staples are fine, to your son's forehead when he gets home. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 suggestions on here, but the most important one, in my book, is avoiding large gatherings. They're going to come home and they're going to want to see all the friends they haven't seen in 6 weeks, and those friends are going to want to see them. I don't know where those friends have been. You don't know where those friends have been, but I know where these young men are coming back to. And so be clear. That's why I'm giving you this, so in case your son said you misunderstood the colonel, it's okay for us to go out and celebrate. It isn't. It's great for them to celebrate with you, so long as you're COVID-free. Hug them, love them, wake them up early. because they're getting up early. Still make them make their beds this weekend, make them their meals, and do a little exercise so they come back to us the same way we gave them to you. We'll enter into another 6-week period after that, only 5 days of classes, but 6 weeks of which we're going to be locked back in until Halloween as a means of, again, trying to stay COVID-free and keeping in class, in person occurring. There are changes. If you haven't seen the letter, please look for it. It was sent to all the parents or guardians explaining how you can come visit the campus during those 6 weeks so you can see your sons a little more often. They'll be outside, unfortunately, but we have some covered areas and so on. It usually doesn't snow in Georgia in October, and that'll get you through to Halloween. I'm back from Halloween from a long break, weekend break at Halloween. I'm back, and it's just a few weeks to Thanksgiving. We're home, semester locked into the books. We're meeting all the accreditation standards. We'll have a semester completed, go home for a nice long break, make sure they wake up early throughout that break, bring them back to us in January, and we start again. If everything goes right, we'll have a completely successful year. This chain of command will make sure that the cadets achieve what it is they're setting out to achieve under really tough conditions. So let's continue to do what we're doing. This isn't the time to let up. I ask you to please travel safely home, enjoy your son, hug him, feed him, but not too much, and bring him back to us safely. Cadet Colonel, take charge of.
Cadets remaining on campus, roll out!
All parents and guests are reminded to please remain seated with your parties as we begin sign-out procedures. This concludes today's leadership recognition and ROC cresting ceremony. At this time, all cadets who will remain on campus will be dismissed to march back to the barracks.
Hooray! Hooray!
As a reminder, please keep your seats in accordance with military tradition. Sign-outs will begin with the newly crested ROC.